Yo, it's your boy Casual with the Silent A podcast. And man, we're back with another one and a quick one at that. Hit that like, comment below, subscribe if you got the time, man. We appreciate that love. And for this, let's get straight into it. By now, you've already heard, right? Jake Paul, Gervonta Tank Davis canceled for the November 14th, 2025 exhibition bout, right? Um, and our quick thoughts on this. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. If you read the title, what is wrong with Gervonta the Tank Davis? You know, the news came out previously over the last weekend. The brother cannot keep his hands off of women, right? He's got new allegations, dragging his current girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, whatever she is to him, a young lady out of the strip club where she worked at, I believe. And obviously now the fight with Jake Paul is canceled. The MVP Promotions, Netflix had to look at this thing and like, they can't have this on their name. They can't have this type of situation tied around themselves in this business, especially with the likes of Netflix, getting its first crack, into the business of boxing over this past year with some big events with the Mike Tyson, event, the other Jake Paul events that they put on, and obviously with the Canelo and Terrence Bud Crawford. So they're hitting it off quick. They're hitting it off fast for the sport of boxing live events, and they can't afford this kind of sully on their name, this kind of association with a character like this. But let's dig a little deeper to, it's clear why Netflix and MVP had to walk away from this situation, even though Tank is, a name, right? Part of the culture of boxing, or part of the culture period. But they had to walk away from the situation because Tank Davis, there's clearly something wrong with him. It was leading up even prior to this event, right? It was clear he was just not there. Something is clearly wrong with Tank. I think he was being honest about his aspirations to continue boxing, meaning his lack thereof, emotions and aspiration to continue boxing, that he needs help, that he wants to focus on some other things outside the sport of boxing, that he wants to get some treatment or some health or some therapy to, bring himself back whole, bring himself back to, I guess, to where he believes he should be. This was all leading even before he even signed the Jake Paul exhibition bout, when he was supposed to get on with the likes of Lamont Roach. You can clearly see there's a few things wrong. Tank, loved him as a fighter, but it's clear he has lack there of emotional control of himself. To continue putting yourself in a position where you got to put your hands on women and females and constantly getting in trouble, constantly getting into these entanglements, constantly putting your hands on someone, whether it's male or female in this matter, shows that you have lack of emotional control. Some can, put that to the fight game, right? But to me, there's no excuse. Whether you're a fighter or normal person, whatever you do in your life and your career, there is no situation that you really should have to put your hands on someone unless it's in, obviously self-defense, or you're getting paid for it, like the sport of boxing or any mixed combat sports. His lack of emotional control has been seen throughout his career, even outside of putting his hands on women. It's his emotional decisions to how he continues on his career, how he responds to people criticizing his career, but then his criticism on other fighters when they have fights, the posts and the tweets that he puts out amongst his fellow peers when they have fights or issues, when obviously the likes of Devin Dream Haney got beat by the likes of Ryan Garcia, even though it got taken back because of the drug cheating scandal, or you name it, when Shakur Stevenson fought Joshua Patley, you name it. The list goes on of his back and forth Twitter fingers with the likes of his peers or anybody around the sport. He even got into it with the likes of Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder, saying that he fought like a girl, how he swings with the windmill, right? His criticism on his opponents, his opposition, his peers, anybody that's in the sport of boxing is his lack of emotional control, right? And then you have, when he gets the criticism back, his lack of opposition, the lack of what he's done in the sport. Yeah, he's made money, and then he'll quickly push back and say, yeah, I've done this. And when he finally met his first opposition in sport, his first real flaw in the sport with the, draw to the likes of Lamont Roach, the brother just loses himself. can't get right. Now, he's already had allegations after allegations after allegations, right? And who knows about this one? Who knows what's going to go down with it? We don't know all the facts yet. But one thing I can say, if there's smoke, there's fire. And this brother has been in too many situations like this, right? Putting his hands on women, putting himself in these type of predicaments. That means there is something there. There is something to this truth, and he needs to be dealt with properly by whatever the law pertains to him in this situation. But let's get back to the sport of boxing, his lack of emotional control, because after he lost to the likes of Lamont Roach, got the draw to the likes of Lamont Roach, he spiraled out of control. Even heading into the Lamont Roach fight, he was really not there, really disengaged, not really part of the press conference. It was really lackluster, his effort, his emotion into it. And then you get, past the draw, headed to the Jake Paul fight, still that lackluster. He just barely was there, barely emotional. Like he argued a little bit times. You saw spurts of him in that, in the press conference, some of the buildup. But the fact that he never got that get back with Lamont Roach, never, show that fighter spirit to get that get back, in the draw where a lot of people, criticized him that it should have been a loss. And then he goes into a Jake Paul to get the bag, and only to get there, be disengaged just as much as he was in the beginning of the Lamont Roach fight. And to fumble the bag because he cannot control his emotions. That is what's wrong with Gervonta the Tank Davis. The brother has lack of control of his emotions, which leads to maturity, which leads to his team, which leads to his surroundings. Who is in his corner supporting this young brother? Who is in the corner keeping him out of these situations? Who is in his corner helping him grow? Everybody makes mistakes, but repeated mistakes become a habit. And right now, this brother's got a bad habit of putting himself in bad situations, putting his hands on people that he don't need to be doing. We were going to go down to the fight November 14, 2025 to see it, see a spectacle, mainly because Alicia Baumgartner was going to be on the undercard, and it was a Netflix event in Miami, right? It was a big time event. So we were going to actually go down there and shoot live, but I'm kind of glad it didn't happen because never felt right about this fight. But more importantly, I cannot support a man who continuously puts his hands on women and just can't get right about that behavior and has developed a habit. I don't know what to wish him. I wish harm on nobody, but at this point, you need to get right. You need to get well. He might need to actually suffer the consequences of his actions. Maybe he will learn. Anyways, that's our thought on this. Lack of emotion, lack of control, and more importantly, his lack of want to be a fighter anymore, lack of wanting to be a boxer. Gervonta Tank Davis is probably officially done with the sport of boxing. It's your boy Cash Rebel Sunday podcast, man. Hit that like button, comment below, subscribe if you got the time. We back to it. Till next time, peace.